So they get overseas, and now I'm taking you straight into it, into him getting tasked with their first mission. And here we go. Was I thrilled? The front at last. When asked by our captain if I wanted to go with the platoon, I said, do I want to go? That's what I've been yearning and aching for all these months. When I was just a youngster, I would read books telling how anxious soldiers were to go into action. I couldn't understand how men could desire to go out and fight and die. But it is something that grows on you. You train and expect so long that finally you become anxious to get into it, to get it over with. Time was short. We went back to our companies on the run. Our company was assembled, and I briefly explained that a platoon of 58 men was to be selected and that we were to make an attack with the French at 6 o'clock that night. My words fell like a bombshell. A brief cheer went up from our company. I asked all the men who wanted to be first in action to step forward. And, like one man, the entire company stepped forward. Men who did not get to go on this trip cried real tears, a direct contrast to the lack of volunteering for dangerous missions a few months later when they had become war-weary. Then they would go if assigned to any task, no matter how dangerous, but they did not rush in. They became fatalists and said they'd go if they were chosen. They'd die if it was their turn, but they weren't going to overwork fate. And that's a perfect comparison to the story that I tell in my retirement speech, where we had this horrible situation going on in Eastern Ramadi, and I basically said, all right, whoever wants to go and live in this worst area, put your name up on that board, and every guy put their name up on that board. And I'll tell you, this is also accurate in the fact that you fast forward 2 or 3 months into deployment after we'd taken casualties, after Mark had been killed, and all of a sudden, guys, we're not, and I'll use the exact quote he uses here, they'd go to any task assigned, no matter how dangerous, but they did not rush in. They became war-weary, and that happens to anybody. And I even saw that on my first deployment to Iraq. When we first got up into Baghdad, everybody wants to go on every mission. Everyone's all fired up. But as time goes by, you start saying, what are we doing this mission for? What's this mission about? Who are we going after? Mm-hmm. Fear starts to creep in.